What is going on, YouTube? It's Jake, aka StarCoding, coming at you with another video where we're talking about computer science. We're looking at the Mythical Man Month yet again, reading another chapter of this bad boy, this ancient artifact. It's so fun. And we're going to be looking at the first chapter, which is called The Tar Pit. So detrimental. But I love that the book started off with this chapter. Um, and you'll see why in a sec. But if we just take a step back and think about some things that have happened in the past, like with these big social media companies like Snapchat and Instagram. If you read the story of how Instagram came to be, it was like four dudes in a garage pretty much that were like, oh dude, let's make an app, and they made an app, just for them, like blazed through it, got it on the App Store, and within a couple of years, Facebook was knocking on their door and bought it up, and now it's one of the, if not the most popular social media app in America. I'm sure TikTok is rivaling up there with it, but it's a very popular app, a very successful app, needless to say. But when you think about its development experience, how it was developed in the beginning, there was four people that just were blazingly fast, lightning quick. And it's not like they were more talented than the developers that now work at Facebook. There's probably like 2,000 or maybe like 500 programmers that are working on Instagram as a whole. I don't know the exact team size, but I can imagine it's several hundred people that are working on Instagram as an app. But it only took four people to get it off the ground, and now it takes a bunch of people to maintain it. And that's kind of like what this tar pit is talking about. It's talking about, you can have highly skilled people that are working on a project, working on a problem. However, it's still going to be slow. Um, and it's not necessarily a function of skill when it comes to speed. It's sometimes a function of project management and how you organize your team and your workflow, that kind of dictates how quickly stuff gets done. So if you're at a company currently that's kind of experiencing this slowness and getting stuff to the end of the finish line when it comes to sprints, like, yeah, like that happens to a lot of companies, even very successful companies. And it's just a function of, as responsibility grows, as the product grows, there's more things that need to be accounted for. So never really think of yourself as not a 10x engineer because of what previous people did at the company. So let's look at some of the joys of the craft. I'll read off some of them because we're talking about what makes software engineering fun, what drives people to be software engineers. And I love it because this is written in 1975, and I'm like, oh my god, like, yeah, that's literally me. I never even like read this book, but the words are so accurate. So there's four main things that Frederick B. book says about why programming is fun. And one is just the sheer joy of making things. You are making something, whether it be virtual or not. You're seeing something through hammering away at the code, and you're able to run and see it work, just like how if you were building a birdhouse or something like that. The second is the pleasure of making things that are useful for other people. Think about the possibilities of making software. If you make it on the internet, you make a web app. People in India, people in Australia, people in South Africa, the whole world can use your application, which is super fun, super cool. And I think a big enjoyment for software engineers is knowing that what you're making is going to have an impact on people. Third, is the fascination of completing puzzle-like problems and just putting in puzzle pieces as you go. I was like, yeah, there you go. I guess that's where the saying of programming is like completing a puzzle came from this guy. At least this is the earliest I've seen it heard before. So that's kind of fun. I was like, yep, like you are just solving a problem after problem, putting the pieces together. And fourth is the joy of always learning, which is, yeah, kind of crazy. I'm like, yep, I mean, if you're in the web app world, if you're in web dev space, okay, I hope you love learning. I hope you love always learning. Are you up to date with the latest React framework, dude? Latest JS framework? I don't know, man. You've been watching this video, so you might be slow to it right now. Anyways, so those are some of the joys of the craft. Like when everything's cooking for the development team. life is great. When you get stuck in the tar pit, there's a couple things that create it. One of the biggest things is the fact that we are always relying on other people's codes for the most part. Even back then in 1975, it's not like you're building everything from scratch. You usually are starting at some sort of abstraction layer, hard drive space, driver space, kernel space, user space, wherever it is. You're relying on the underlying systems that are before you, and maybe there's some like little open source modules that you're also relying on. And so when one of the woes of the craft is when one of those dependencies just isn't working out, then what are we going to do? Are we going to jump into their code? Are we going to debug their code? There could be a lot of lines to look at and get to the end of that rabbit hole to figure out what the issue is. So one of the woes is definitely dependency issues. I'm sure that everyone has stories about dependencies being weird. But never be afraid to open up that dependency on GitHub if it's open source and try to take a crack at the problem. That's what makes the open source community so fun. Another one is debugging. So when we're creating things, we have a nice, stream of thoughts. We're imagining something, we're creating something, and then like 3 months down the line, 2 weeks down the line, you realize that, oh my god, this thing is not working as I intended it to, and now there's bugs in my product. Depending on those bugs, depending if you even know how those bugs are happening, like you have to replicate it, man. And that could be very hard to do. You just have a customer that comes to you and is like, hey, like this happened. I don't know what happened, but we don't want that to happen in the product anymore. And it's like, dude, you might spend, 2 weeks to a month, 2 months trying to get to the bottom of a problem and solve it. It is like solving the puzzle pieces, but it's not a continuous, thought of growth and building. It's more of just like, dude, how the heck is this happening? And it can be frustrating at times. I'm looking at you, AWS CloudFormation. Yeah, AWS CloudFormation templates. Oh my god, it was crazy. So, another one that's just, kind of about the tar pits. There's two more really. One is that everything must be performed perfectly. There is no room for error. We are writing very logical programs. It's just a part of the game. It's kind of why a lot of us don't have personalities. Okay, a lot of us programmers, you talk to us and we go silent after 5 minutes because there's no personality there. No, we just gotta perform perfectly. Oh my gosh, and that's logical, logical minds right there doing our thing. Sometimes it can be hard to be emotional, but that's why Apple is so good. They bridge the gap between emotional and logical connections very well, which will be probably a topic for another video. But the final one that we're going to talk about, the final woe of software engineering, is just the fact that you don't control what the objectives are and what the end result is usually going to be when it comes to working at a company. When you're doing your own side project, obviously you have choice over that, which is why sometimes you're just up at the computer till 3 a.m. coding. But if you're working for someone else, yeah, sometimes the woe can just be like what task you're given at that time. Then you have to complete it. It is what it is. Don't get too wrapped into it. It'll be a-okay. It'll only last a couple weeks, maybe a month. But yeah, those were kind of the woes. But there you go. That's kind of a brief summary of the tar pits and how you can get there. And I guess the rest of the book kind of outlines when stuff gets slow, when the tar pit starts forming around you, when you notice that everything's like slowing down. How do we get out of it? How do we get back to being quick and efficient? And so the more chapters we read here, the more solutions we'll have for getting out of the tar pit. So hope to see you around in the next video. This is Jake. Peace.